Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto, Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual. Again, yes, we're going to have a good show. We're going to have a good show as I get all these bits and pieces put together because I'm still a little bit behind, but I'm getting the bits and pieces put together. Anyway, folks, welcome aboard Bridge MCP. Welcome aboard Yvette Avery Herod. Welcome aboard AVQL Senor Michael Rudden. Everybody's not in the house yet. My emails must not have gone out yet as I check, and they're not queued yet. They'll be queued shortly, I imagine. We're doing fine. Anyway, Breach says, para Egberto, something good in the mail, probably tomorrow or Friday. Okay, love to hear that, brother. I love to hear that. Thank you, Mr. Rudnin. And we have also, Breach says, how is Linda doing? Linda is, today she got up. You know, I sleep at the hospital every night. And she got up today. And I left and Ashley took my place. And so all I was able to do is say, how you doing? How you feel? And she just said, kind of fine, etc. I took off. Well, she called me later on and she said, I don't know, but today I got up feeling somewhat better. There's still some stuff with all the stuff with her esophagus that's going on. They did a whole lot of tests today, but she seems to be improving. It seems like we hope that the shingle lupus interaction may be getting a bit better. So I am trusting that things are going to get better. You know, when you have lupus and other things happen and kidney issues, it can go crazy and it can go crazy fast, which is what exactly happened with her over the period of 2 weeks. It just went berserk. So thank you for asking, Bridge MCP. She's improving quite a bit. Yvette Avery Harris says, good afternoon, PDR Posse. It's great having you here, Yvette. Great having you here. Egberto Willies said, did she get the sores in her throat? We don't quite know. They did the endoscopy and it was a mess. It was all inflamed and red, when they pulled the stuff from the esophagus. So I don't think they saw any sores there, but it was very much inflamed. So it could be pre-sore or post-sore. We don't know, but they do think most of this have to do with the shingles and lupus interaction, etc. I spoke yesterday. I really had to for some extent go back, crazy, because every doctor was doing their own thing and there was no cohesive connectivity about what's going on, which is what good healthcare should look like. So I really got the ombudsman there and got her together, and they, from food service to doctors to everybody, they came into the room and we chatted, because I tell you something, folks, we have the lousiest healthcare system. It's not the doctor's fault, it's not the nurse's fault, it is the corporate side's fault, because our hospital system or medical system doesn't think people first, it thinks profit first. So the first let me get a little bit on my soapbox. Bear with me a little bit, please. I got to say this. This is second time into the hospital in a period of, 8 days or so. First time she spent 3 days. This time she's there so far, I think 3 days. Okay. And it's interesting. You go into emergency room. The first time it seemed like she had stroke parameters. You would think that they would leave asking you about insurance and all of that apart. Get your name, blood, all that good stuff they should get down and try to take care of you. Immediately as she is in the emergency room bed in pain, etc., they're asking insurance card, date of birth, what is this, employer, what plan do you have? I mean, you are sick as hell. And the only thing that they're thinking of is about collecting their monies, right? So even as the nurses are doing their work, right, they're doing all the scanning, because everything, a toothbrush, a syringe, everything is scanned and billed. It's going to be billed, right? So we have these people taking care of of people from a financial point of view. And the bill is going to be ridiculous. We're going to be talking several. I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty damn close to $100,000 for this scenario. Makes absolutely no sense. So they're asking you, the nurses, a part of their care is maintaining business, right? So I do not blame the nurses. I do not blame the doctors. I do not blame the assistants on the floor. I blame the corporate structure under which healthcare is given. And until we get rid of the corporate structure of healthcare, it'll remain. And it'll give guys like me who are advocates for, whether it's be my wife, my daughter, or a friend, I'm going out there to fight the system. But how many people have the wherewithal to go out there and have no fear with these folks and go out there and say, it's not going to be this way. This is what needs to be done. A lot of people don't have the wherewithal to do that. We should have to have the wherewithal to do that. We should have inherently a humane society. But anyway, Breach says, Egberto, I was having a heart attack and they asked for insurance before Doc came in. I threw my wallet at them and said a few words. I know you, girl. Exactly. Michael Ruddin says, our medical system would be really good if not for the profit motive. Priority of care is all messed up because of that. And yeah, and you don't get the interaction between all these doctors that are serving you. It makes no sense, but we got to get a better system. We got to preach all Medicare for all. This is not a party affiliation thing. This is a human thing. We need to have universal health care for all. And whenever somebody tells you we can't afford it, says, okay, that means that it is okay. You believe it is okay for us to relegate some of our citizens to die. All right. We can afford it. We can afford the best health care for every single American citizen. We should pay for people to go to school to be doctors. We should pay we can afford it. That we don't is because of an evil economic system. No two ways about it. Let's see. AOC humiliated by Bobulinski after gotcha question fall flat. No. Actually, Bobulinski looked like a clown, and we'll show that in a little bit. Bobulinski looked like a complete clown because he didn't know what he was talking about. Bridge MCP says, when primary docs went to hospitals, which they stopped, they coordinated all the docs. Exactly. We have a group here called Kaiser. No, not Kaiser. It's not Kaiser. It's, I don't remember the name of the group here in town. That they were the first one to adopt Obamacare as a group right here in Texas. And this group, Kelsey Siebel had this care where they actually, it was, you got care from a team and it worked pretty well. Good afternoon, Maywood. It worked pretty well. Unfortunately, they got bought out, if I remembered, by a for-profit corporation, which is what's occurring with all these groups. If you take a look at all these groups, they're being bought by corporations. Emergency rooms are being put out there by corporations. It's all a business on your health, which means your health will continue to suffer. There's nothing good coming out of this. Anyway, let's go ahead and Michael Rodin has a good piece here. Let me read that first, and then we'll move on. Eric getting his info from the right-wing bubble again. Republicans pushing an impeachment investigation without any evidence for charges while relying on information from someone who admitted connections to Russian intelligence. You seriously need to get off the hate train. At this point, the story isn't the fact that the basis of impeachment inquiry is wrong. The story is, why is it proceeding anyway? Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez asked, saying Republicans have no charges. I have to hear the chairman's opening allegations that they are specifically charging the president of the United States. I'm hearing about the Biden family. I'm hearing about this and that. I'm not hearing about the specific allegation by this committee. What is it? It is not here. And that is the problem, she said. And let's go ahead and listen to the little piece that, since that's where you want to start, Radnim, we'll listen to the little piece put out by AOC, but actually by MSNBC on AOC. So let's go ahead and listen to that now, and then we'll take it on the other side. All right, let's go ahead and do that right this minute. Republicans continue to show who they are. Not, number one, not very, I hate to say it, but not very smart in believing that they could have a hearing like they had today in an attempt to impeach the president with witnesses that at best are dubious, but actually themselves are suspect. But anyhow, there's a clip where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez really gives the meat of what these guys are like. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Had a wild scene on Capitol Hill today, to say the least, where GOP lawmakers in the House, they organized this testimony from a witness who had to call in from behind bars, from prison, for an inquiry into Hunter Biden and the president that NBC News reported largely lost its steam weeks ago, even within the Republican Party. I want to bring in NBC's Ryan Nobles, who's live for us on Capitol Hill, to talk more about this. It has been quite a contentious last couple of hours. Ryan, walk us through the highlights here.
Yeah, well, it's very clear, Yasmin, that Republicans and Democrats have a different view about the trajectory of this impeachment inquiry. And what Republicans hoped to do today was bring forward a collection of witnesses who would help to corroborate their overall claims that the current president, Joe Biden, was directly involved in his son and his brother's business dealings, both foreign and domestic, and that he used the power of his office to benefit those businesses. And what they've been able to elicit so far from these witnesses, one, Tony Bobulinski, who you see on screen right now, and the other, Jason Galandis, who is testifying from behind bars in federal prison, is that it was their belief that Hunter Biden was certainly trading on his father's name, that Joe Biden was the brand that he was selling. Where they've fallen short, though, is providing any direct evidence that Joe Biden himself was actually involved, even if Hunter Biden may have been claiming that. Listen to one of the exchanges from earlier today.
What is the crime, sir?
You
specifically.
You asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with. Corruption.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime. It is a category. What we are seeing here today is a continuation of the 15-month saga of the Republican majority lost in the desert.
I mean, how low can you get? Then it's the Republicans' idea that this is the best guy they can get to testify against the president. This is the best guy they can get. A guy sitting in prison who can't even be here.
And it's also important to point out that Republicans did invite Hunter Biden, who's, of course, the key witness in this investigation, kind of the foundation of the Republican claims. And even though Hunter Biden sat for a lengthy closed-door deposition with this committee, he declined the invitation to participate today, despite saying before that he had preferred to testify publicly. He said basically that he would only testify if the hearing was all-encompassing around the topic of influence peddling, and someone like Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, was invited to the hearing as well. Yasmin, I think the big question a lot of people are going to be left with after this hearing wraps up is what is next in this impeachment inquiry. As you rightly point out, even rank and file Republicans are starting to question whether or not there is any enough evidence, I should say, to put on the floor articles of impeachment, or if this committee will take a different direction, do something like send criminal referrals to the Department of Justice instead. I think all of that is on the table right now, but there's no real clear path forward for House Republicans when it comes to this investigation. Yeah.
Alexandria was, first of all, he attempted to be condescending, and in the process of being condescending, he pretty much proved that he was the one that didn't know anything about the subject, as she had to explain to him RICO laws, and that RICO was, well, as she explained it, as you heard previously. So let's be clear here. in the attempt to impeach the president or to present articles of impeachment, what they showed more than anything else is they are completely unserious. There's much that needs to be done in the country, and they're having hearings on attempting to falsely create issues to impeach the president. Now, who in Washington is working for you? Remember this in November, because if you don't, there's going to be a lot more of this you're going to get. There's got to be a lot more of this that you're going to get. Welcome aboard, my dear Paul Fleming from Atlanta, Georgia. E2247 from all over is in the house. We also have joining Lee Grant is in the house. My brother Lee Grant is in the house. Did I miss anybody? If I missed anybody, forgive me. But let's see. IPC classification and analytical approach determines acute malnutrition situations in a country according to international recognized scientific studies. That is from E2247. Using IPC classification and analytical approach, governments and UN agencies, NGOs, civil society, and others together determine severity and magnitude of acute chronic food insecurity. Just say hunger. This food, that is one of the things with us progressives sometimes. Some of the wordiology that we use. Food insecurity. Somebody doesn't know that they're food insecure. They know they're hungry. They know they're starving. So let's use food insecurity in documents, etc. But when we're talking to, and this is not on you, E2247. You just made me think about it when you wrote that down. When we're talking to people, say on TV, when we're talking about what Israel is doing to Gaza, we don't go ahead and say Israel is leaving the people food insecure. We go ahead and say Israel is starving the people. They're murdering the people by keeping them hungry. Right? That's it. Carnal. That's what Republicans know how to do. They know how to get to your carnality so that they understand that this is what is going on. When you say, well, the people in Gaza right now, the food insecurity in Gaza is very difficult. And what we would like to do is make sure that we create a transition in order to get transportation of the resources needed to. No. We need Israel to stop killing people by hunger, and we need to start doing things, right? All right. Brother Lee Grant says, shout out to Governor Abbott for struggle to protect the Texas border. You know what? I need to cut that piece out. Maybe I'll get a chance to cut it while I'm playing the other video. But let me tell you something. The reality of what's going on the reality of what's going on with the border has nothing to do. I hate to bust your bubble, Brother Grant. It has very little to do with the border. It has everything to do with Abbott making some money for his friends. We're not closing the border. We're not stopping undocumented workers from coming over, because the reason undocumented workers are coming over to the United States of America is because guess what? Guess what? America wants undocumented workers. Did you know that? Did you know that? Did you know that undocumented workers are a part of our system? It is designed within our system. It's a part of our system. Social Security depends on it. Did you know that? I doubt it. I doubt it. But you should. You should know that we depend on our social security system partially remains solvent further in the future because of all those undocumented workers that are paying Social Security that will never, ever use it. Did you know that we need these people are a net positive? So you can keep on thinking that, let me tell you what they're doing. And I'm going to play that video that the tape that I did on the Steve Hunter show today. This immigration thing that they want to lock people up and have concentration camps for them, and it's all a money grabber. It is to pass money to Greg Abbott's friends to build these holding tanks for people so that when they decide they need more people in there, they create a raid, bring people in that's funded by your tax dollars that go into the pockets of those people that provide that service, and they put them in there, then they deport them out of the country, and then more come in, more undocumented come into the country to replace those that we kicked out, and the cycle continues. It's a business. And it's a business that a lot of Republicans make money from. And then they use their sycophants who are following them. Oh, immigration is a problem. Immigration is not a problem. And by the way, the people that are coming at the border are coming for a reason, which I mentioned as well. I think if I recall correctly in the show earlier today or something like that, you have got folks to get our brains informed. We can't keep living in ignorance. We have to be informed. All right, let's see what we got. Kush has nothing to do with Hunter. No, but what we're saying is Hunter was banking on the name of his father. In other words, Hunter Biden wouldn't have done diddly crap being in corporations or anything if his name wasn't Hunter Biden, if it wasn't a Biden. But that is standard modus operandi for a lot of these people. And what he wanted to say is, well, Trump's son-in-law did the same kind of things that I did. He just did it at a grandeur scale, and a scale of $2 billion. You know, it's Trump change compared to what Hunter is doing. So if you want me to show up there, bring Kushner as well. Kushner has everything to do with it. Everything to do with it. All right. Paul Fleming says, thanks to Trump tax law, next year, top 1% will get a tax break of over $60,000 each. Meanwhile, the bottom 10% will get less than $500. This is why we call the tax cuts a giveaway to the super rich, because this is exactly what they are. But it's deeper than that, Brother Fleming, because they're part of the tax cuts that Donald Trump gave that backs up. Okay. In other words, the tax cut for the wealthy was permanent. The tax cut for the middle class was temporary. Don't ask me I have to look it up. I don't remember exactly what was temporary and what wasn't. Bridge MCP says, snippet. Lev Parnas, a former Rudy Giuliani associate who was central to Donald Trump's scheme to find dirt on the Bidens in Ukraine, testified before the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday and pointed the finger at Trump and his GOP allies in Congress. Parnas was a central figure in Trump's first impeachment over pressuring Ukraine to find dirt on Joe Biden, his likely opponent ahead of the 2020 election. Parnas was tasked by Trump's personal lawyer at the time, Giuliani, to travel to Ukraine and link Joe and Hunter Biden to corruption, which Parnas has publicly testified he did not find. Oh my God, Eric, did you hear that? Oh my God, Eric, you don't see it because the hate in your heart and the wish that you have that the Bidens are as corrupt as the former president. It's not the case. I'm sorry, Eric. It's not the case. Eric, same category of supposed crime, benefiting from your name and connection to the presidency. Hunter Biden got a Burisma job off his name, earned some few $100,000 while Joe Biden was out of office, while Jared Kushner was Trump's Secretary of Everything and got $2 billion from the Saudis. You don't see why they're compared. Of course, you can see the correlation immediately. Paul Fleming says President Biden announced one of the biggest federal investments in U.S. chip manufacturing, an $8.5 billion grant to tech giant Intel as he visited the battleground state of Texas. It will take years for the manufacturing project to become operational, and there are already some environmental concerns about whether there's enough water in Arizona to support the needs of the chip manufacturer. Of course, there's going to be a water problem, but they're going to create reuse and all of it. But here's the kicker, right? Why? That is socialism. Why are we investing our dollars, our taxpayer dollars, to help Intel build chips that we are not going to profit from? Socialism, corporate socialism. But they don't like to say it. That's what it is. And look, I'm not blaming Biden for doing that, right? But let's all call this what it is now, so that the next time we want healthcare, etc., and they say, oh, that's socialism. What about giving the $8.5 billion to Intel? Come on, folks. Maywood, that's a repeat right there. All right, let's see. Macaroni says food insecurity. It's not widespread, that's hunger. If it's widespread, that's famine. Such might be the difference between 10 million children in the U.S. who are food insecure, periodically to go to bed hungry, which is already bad enough, compared to Gaza, where they are on the business end of the siege, warfare, and starving. Exactly. Let's see. Paul Fleming says Biden wants a 25% tax on billionaires. Trump wants to double down on his tax cut, which have already fueled wealth. Yes, 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 yes. This isn't complicated. Billionaires are funneling cash to Trump's campaign for a tax break. Anyone else supporting him is being duped. I know, Paul. You have to help us tell the story, Paul. Thank you. Paul says, call me crazy, but CEOs could not be making nearly 350 times more than their typical employees when 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And under Trump, it was 80% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. So we got a little 20% reprieve from Brother Bill. Melody Keelan is in the house from Barcelona, Spain. E2247 says, deny Bibi entry into the U.S. and put out an Interpol warrant for his butt. Agreed. I agreed. Eric says, hearing away, keep it going. And yes, remember the economy turmoil is created. Don't know what the hell you're talking about, Eric, but I know you mean something there. Inequality says, inequality has jeopardized the future of Social Security. As the rich have gotten richer, more and more of their income has escaped the cap on Social Security payroll tax. We should be focused on fixing this by scrapping the cap, no cut-in benefits. Absolutely. We can scrap the cap. If we scrap the cap, our overall Social Security taxes would fall. The wealthy would pay a lot more because they have so much more to tax, and the average American citizen won't have to pay that 14% in Social Security taxes. All right. Paul Fleming says, new FBI data confirms previous indication that crime in the U.S. declined significantly in 2023, continuing a post-pandemic trend and belying widespread perception that crime is rising. Lying is a dangerous thing, and that is what Republicans do best when they lie. Oh, crime is through the roof. People are dying. It's not true. Learn, read, folks, read. Squido is in the house. He says, I haven't been around for a long time because I have dementia. I'm afraid, but I'll do my best. Okay, Squido, I'm sorry that you have dementia. I know who you are, Squido. Paul Fleming Sr. says the GOP wants to distract from the ability to govern. This is why they are pushing an impeachment inquiry into Biden without any evidence. They don't know how to govern. They don't know how to govern. Let's see. He got nothing from Saudi, not his money. He is investing to make them money. No, what does he know about investing $2 billion? That's not what he does. That was a payoff, my Eric. Come on, stop being gullible. From Politico, according to Paul Fleming, Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, faced sharp criticism after he said Gaza's waterfront property could be very valuable in face of the Israel-Hamas war. And that's the magic. That's the answer. He spoke too fast, right? They want to push the Palestinians out because that is primo territory, that entire strip on the beach. Beautiful land. That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. My head hurts just thinking about it. Okay, let's go to our second video. This one is funny, I think. And then I'll do the happiness video last. But this one has to do with Eddie Glaude and something he said, but it's a full story. Let's take a look at this and then we'll take it on the other side. Here we go. You know, this one was really funny that I mean, it's so true. And I had to do a double take because a lot of folks won't go on national TV or in cable news and say it, right? I'm driving my car and I'm watching MSNBC, Deadline, White House, I think it was on. And, you know, Michael Glaude is talking, making some statements, and then he said it. And I'm like, what? Okay. Then I had to come home and cut the videos because you guys are going to love this. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Andrew, there's probably no one outside of Robert Mueller himself, who was familiar with the investigation than you. What was your first reaction to hearing that he's back?
Well, I thought it might be useful to remind people of exactly who he is. But I also think that if you put this story together with Donald Trump's current words about people who participated in the January 6th insurrection and the assault on Congress trying to overthrow our democracy, that they're hostages and not just criminal defendants. The Paul Manafort piece just becomes just another data point for something that we already know about Donald Trump, and very much running as a sort of outlaw candidate. So this to me seems like a piece of that. But it's worth remembering that Donald Trump is praising somebody who went to trial, as is his right. Paul Manafort was convicted by a jury of his peers of 8 felonies, sort of widespread tax and bank fraud. He then pled guilty to more tax, more bank fraud, obstruction of justice. He admitted that he tampered with 2 witnesses while out on bail. That led to the judge revoking his being out on bail and sending him to jail. He also, as you noted, had ordered that internal polling data be given to his colleague Konstantin Kilimnik, who was found by the FBI to be closely associated with Russian intelligence. And actually, after the Biden administration took over, it was confirmed and reported that that polling data went to Russia, didn't just go to his associate, that it actually did make its way all the way to the Kremlin. So this is somebody who has a history, a litany of felonies that are quite serious, that usually is not something that is on the resume of somebody who is a campaign manager of one of the 2 major parties in the United States.
So, Eddie, after hearing everything that, Andrew just laid out, and when you look at Trump's continued inability to condemn Putin, even in the wake of the death of opposition Navalny, and Russia's highly undemocratic presidential elections, which we've just witnessed over the last 24 hours. What's your assessment of the danger here? How dangerous do you think it is to have someone like Manafort coming back into our politics, back into our political process?
Oh, I think we're at, the highest threat level we could possibly imagine in some ways. And let's add to your description, Mike, what Michael Cohen said in the last hour. Given the bond that he can't make, where is he going to get this money? It actually opens him up to all sorts of influences in so many ways. I think it's so clear to me that the failure to hold Donald Trump accountable over the course of his life has led this man to be able to think that he can act with impunity, that he can act without being held responsible for anything. The idea that Paul Manafort, given what Andrew just laid out, can re-enter politics boggles my mind. And to be honest with you, and I know this may sound a bit, obsessive on my part, damn, white men get breaks, man. I mean, could you imagine?
One more time, Eddie.
There you go.
One more time for the people who didn't hear it.
Damn, white men get breaks, man.
Please.
But could you imagine anybody else being able to do this? Whether it's Trump or Manafort or whomever, it just blows my mind, Mike.
I got nothing.
We got to repeat that clip in slow motion.
Damn, white men get breaks, man.
I got nothing.
I mean, Glaude is right. How many things does Donald Trump have to do to actually pay a price for, to have the population at large pay a price for? But it's, people would say, well, that is Donald Trump. It is Donald Trump, and he's a special person, a billionaire, and maybe some other unique person would have that same thing. But then Donald Trump says, I am going to go ahead and bring back in my former campaign manager who was convicted and Nobody says he can't do it. It's like, all right, if he brings him in, he's disgraced, but he brings him in, he gets a chance. So you see why Eddie Glaude says what he says. Because again, it is like if Manafort can come back after being convicted of felonies, after spying for the Russians, after doing all these things, and he comes back into the fold. Do you think Obama or any one of these guys could get away with it, or any woman would get away with it? Hillary Clinton or any? Hillary Clinton didn't even do anything with regards to emails. They talk about scrubbing servers and all of that. They don't know what they're talking about. Emails are all over the place in the ethos. So her having a server in her home, that was the least concern as far as security for emails. But the media knows it, but they don't expand on it. But when Donald Trump talk his stupidity as well, they make it seem as if, oh, it's big thing. But also, again, we ask, these guys are thugs, and we accept them into leadership. We accept them as being okay. Eddie Glaude, I get it. Some of us don't have that privilege of being able to either make mistakes or being able to be thugs, visual thugs in what we do. Wow, that was beautiful. And the panel all thought it was beautiful. This great multicultural panel got itself a great laugh because sadly, that is still America today. Sadly, that is still America today. Paul Fleming says, after this interview, this is what Don Lemon official said about Elon Musk. Breaking. Don Lemon stated that Elon Musk is the most delicate snowflake he's ever interviewed, remarking, I've interviewed many world leaders from presidents to convicts, and none has been more sensitive or touchy than Elon Musk. Elon Musk is just, and it drives me crazy that people think so highly of Elon Musk because, first of all, he's not all that smart. It's amazing what can happen when you get a silver spoon, right? You get a silver spoon, you can do a lot with it, right? You get the start. Bill Gates got the initial seed money. The guy Jeff Bezos seed money. It's amazing what you can do. I had to fight to get $40,000 from my software company only after the software company was profitable and I didn't need the money. But I went and took it anyway. I wrote it in my book, Tribulation of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. That story is in there as well. So, but look, folks, I have one more video to do, and then we're going to be taking off a little bit early. I want to get to the hospital before the business office closes down. So let's go ahead and do the last video of the day. Here we go. Guess what, folks? Guess what's out? It's the happiness index. And, for the first time in history, in other words, for the first time since the UN started doing the happiness index, the United States has fallen out of the top 20. You have to ask yourself, how can the richest country in the world, that country that made of milk and honey, it's the capitalist bastion, it's a place that everybody wants to go to. Well, there is a problem. Houston, there is a problem. Of the happiest countries in the world, guess where most of them are? Of course, as usual, the Nordic countries, stuff that we've spoken about over and over again. And the fight between Finland and Denmark continues. Finland is the happiest country in the world. I wonder why. Great educational system, great healthcare system. They care about their people. They take care of their people. Followed by whom? Denver. Denver again, great healthcare system. They take care of their kids. They take care of families. They are the true countries that can say family values. Iceland, often run by women. It is wonderful to see that countries that really take care of their own are the countries that are doing very well. Sweden, of course, we know that Sweden does very well. Again, they take care of their people. it's interesting because Israel also made the list. And you have to ask yourself, what's so special about Israel? Well, the truth of the matter is Israel is what I call a capitalist socialist state because it has a huge social network. You take a look at the kibbutz. That's a sort of a collective social sets of programs. You take a look at their healthcare system. You take a look at all these things together, right? And it turns out that in as much as they are our sister nation, they don't make the mistakes we have in the way we take care of our population. They care about their population. We don't. We believe in laissez-faire capitalism that really harms many of us. The Netherlands, of course, the Netherlands would make the list. Norway, I had a caller from Norway who spoke about his son being paralyzed and on a mountain. I think he went skiing or something like that. I should link the interview with him. I did a long interview that eventually went viral. This guy from Norway said, actually, he's an American who left America because of our system and decided to move and migrate to Norway and has never turned or looked back because he said, he's a productive citizen, but all the programs that one would expect a good country to have to take care of its people, Norway fit the bill. His son got into a ski accident, got paralyzed for a while. They sent the helicopter to bring his son down to the hospital. They paid the insurance system, made sure that his son had transportation to and from rehab. It was just, he said, a humane experience, even as tragic as what happened to his son. And of course, we have Luxembourg, Switzerland, number 10, Australia, 11, New Zealand, 12, Costa Rica, at least one country in my part of the world, Costa Rica, they have a good healthcare system where you have people that come to your home. The way they do it is, I think I don't remember how many years they make sure that every single, whether you're in the mountains, on the top of a cliff or wherever, they make sure that you have contact with the health system that does a checkout of you, etc. They send people around the country to take good care of their people. Kuwait, well, of course, it's a rich country, abundance in oil. But I tell you what, it just shows you by having Costa Rica on it at the same time that you have Kuwait, you can be not the richest country or the poorest country. It doesn't really matter as long as you have a system that is humane and cares about people. Canada, of course, is number 15, Belgium 16, Ireland number 17, Czech Republic is 18, 19 is Lithuania, and 20th is Great Britain, the United Kingdom. Again, there's something special about all these places. They have great health care for their people, and they have good programs to make people's lives worth living without having the stresses that we have here in the United States. Now, you may say the United States is 23. That's way above the 100 and something nations in the United Nations, and you would be right. There's a lot of good happening in our country, but for being the bastion, the richest country on the planet, not necessarily per capita, but as far as resources is concerned, one would expect us to be at the top of the list and be able to do the things that we want to do. Now, I'll tell you something else. In as much as our happiness index is rated at 23, if you were to go into individual areas of our country, whether it be Appalachias, the ghettos, the barrios, etc., the misery index would be pretty high because, as it turns out, we have great bifurcations in how people live. And until we understand that and start fixing those issues, we will continue to be where we are. But again, we have fallen out of the top 20 for the first time ever on this list. We have to stop being a country in decline and remember what it's like to be that country that can lead the way. And let's go ahead and do that again, folks. Let's go ahead and do that again. Absolutely so. Absolutely so. Welcome aboard. Gatlin Combo says there's no excuse for how terrible the U.S. is to its people. Thank you for those smart comments. E2247 says, thank you, Linda and Ashley, for sharing Egberto with us these hours. Man, I love you all. You know, I can tell you from the depths of my heart that doing what we do here together makes a difference. Carl Cox is in the house. How's your wife doing, Egberto? Today she feels better than she did yesterday. She has a long comeback still, but we're doing fine, brother. Thank you so kindly for asking. I want to thank from yesterday, because I didn't do it. I was kind of monitoring as I was talking to the business people out there at the hospital. I want to thank Brother Ray, J. Ray, for his contribution, his super chat. I want to thank Robert P. Davenport for the contribution. He says, greeting progressives on the first day of, he said something in here and I can't see it. I can't read it. On the first day of spring 2024. Likewise, Bridge MCP, our stalwart, says, greetings, says, thanks, Egberto, for doing the show and dealing with the family issues at the same time. Look, girl, this is what we do. We're all in this together, and I couldn't do this without our great peeps that are constantly watching, our great peeps that continue to support the program so that we can promote truth to the rest of the country. We do our small part. We need a lot of people doing their small part to make this a better place. I want to remind folks to go get my book, please. It is Tribulation of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. Racism didn't stop my smile, hope, or journey. I guarantee you, women will get something out of this. Men will get something, whether you're a black man, a white man, a Chinese man, or any kind of person, you'll get something out of it. It'll tell these different stories will tell a story to everyone. So please go ahead and get the book. How can you get the book? You can go to politicsdoneright.com/books, politicsdoneright.com/books. I promise you, and by the way, I have all my other books there as well. But here's a kicker. If you go ahead and support our newsletter, if you go ahead and get a paid subscription to our newsletter, you can read all my books I have 2 of them up, but I'm putting the rest up. You can read all of my books at the Substack newsletter, where I post my newsletter, the Egberto on the Run newsletter. You can read all my books there. This one is already up there at the Substack, as well as I think it's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relative friends and neighbors. I'm posting the others as well, so they will be there. So consider going to politicsdoneright.com/books to get the book if you want the hard copy, etc., or the Kindle copy. Or you can go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Become a paid subscriber of a newsletter. It's just a coffee. You know, think about it. A coffee a month. You'll say, if you saw me in the street every month or say, hey, Egberto, let's go have a cup of coffee. 1 cup of coffee. If we can get several hundred cups of coffees together, everybody around the country doing what we can continue to support what we're doing. But that's what we need. We need to get about 1,000, more than 1,000 cups of coffee a month. And that can take care of helping us get some help into the studio, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, we're in dire straits. We're trying to keep it going. So anyway, folks, the other thing is we have a lot of different forms of support in the program. Go to politicsdoneright.com/support. Politicsdoneright.com/support gives you all the options to support. Brady says, Egberto Willies, thanks for the show and being here. Prayers for Linda and family. She sounds like she is on the mend, so it looks that way, and we hope there's no relapse. And I send her y'all's love all the time. I tell her, hey, people ask for you all the time. That has a positive effect on somebody's psyche, that they know that they have folks on their side. They have people that are rooting for them. I've got to get out of here a bit early, folks. So I want to thank you all for being here. Once again, please go ahead and get the book at politicsdoneright.com/books. I just put it in there again. Please support the program by going to politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support. It gives you all the different options in which you can support our program. And lastly but not least, please if you have the wherewithal to do so, please become a paid subscriber of our free newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.